mean, I was going to start with the retraction.
Oh,
It's on my phones, actually. I think you know why.
and you need to. You said you were going to address the other thing, the comment.
Well, it's not the retract. That is the comment. I mean,
Okay.
it's in the retraction episode. It's in the retraction segment, but it's not an actual retraction.
Okay,
But that's the thing. That I feel like we need to expand our idea of what we call a retraction, because it's about addressing. Sometimes if we're partly right, partly wrong, that still should fall into the retraction area. Our retraction should be, of course, if we're completely flat out, just indispensably, arrogantly on the wrong foot, on the wrong steam engine, on the wrong plane, on the wrong planet, in the wrong galaxy, things of that nature. That's also in the retraction segment. But this one is more of like, okay,
through omission.
Through omission. How's that? How about that? So here's what we're gonna say here. Okay, to the commenter that scolded us for attacking Texas with regard to not having laws on the books that require, at least on the state level, that require employers to give construction workers water breaks. That person made a really good point, and I wish I had their comment up because I could use their username, but you know who you are if you listen to this clip or the episode, either or. You're partly right. We attacked Texas, and Texas is one of 47 states that does not have these laws on the books. There are only, I mean, according to the listener, I didn't double check it, but I from what I remember, there are only 3 states in the union that have laws that require water breaks: California, Oregon, and Washington State, I believe. Now, here's the thing. The average temperature in Texas in the summer is at the height. So the highest average temperature throughout the 3 months between June, July, and August is above 90 degrees. Okay? It is above 90 degrees in that state. Now, there might be other states that also have average temperatures above 90 degrees throughout the summer. So we should talk to those states as well. But even in the article that I did, and I believe we sourced in the article I referenced for the story, the reason even the article pointed out Texas is because Texas is leading, or one of the states leading the nation in terms of climate change and in terms of being how hot the temperatures could reach. Phoenix, Arizona, we talk about Arizona a lot. So Arizona is another one that is leading, but Texas is also there. So in that, what do you call it? Not in that contextualization, right? In that context, Texas is a massive offender because you are leading Texas. You're leading the nation in terms of how hot it can get on any given day during the summer months, and yet fighting laws that people are trying to get on the books, but you're fighting these laws for construction workers to have mandated water breaks. I think that's something that is fair game to call out. Is it wrong not to call out the other 47 states as well, or the other 46 states that also do not have laws on the books? Absolutely. But just for reference, New Jersey, where we are, our state, the average temperature throughout the summer hovers a little like around 85 degrees, 80, like it's like below 90, but it probably will get higher. So this is again why we're referencing, why we're talking about every state should be considering these laws. But you're looking at something around 85 degrees, okay? Just putting out there in context, okay? 85 to above 90 degrees. I'm sorry I didn't convert this to Celsius for the UK listeners, but you could type this into Google just to get what we're talking about here. But I think that 5-degree difference, on average, that's enough to just say that if you're leading, if you're hot, if you're one of the hotter states in the union, this is something that you probably should consider. And I think it's worth pointing out, not doing it while being one of the hotter states. California is probably up there as well. Californians are probably also one of the hotter states in the union over the summer months, but they have these laws on the books because of that fact. That's probably one of the reasons why they put these laws into place, is because they know that they are one of the hottest states in the country. That's all. That's all.
Does that mean that if you're not one of the hottest states, you don't deserve a water break?
No, that's not what we're saying. I said that every state should have these laws on the books. I'm pointing out that the hottest states should probably be there. Like, they should be there already. I'm saying I think it's worth calling out some of the hotter states for not putting them on the books. Every state is going to get hotter. because of climate change. The weather it's going to keep getting worse. So this should be something that the federal government probably should be talking about. Now I know you put federal government and mandate in the same sentence is an eye roll
with a Texan.
Well, hey, I'm not picking on Texas, so I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to make. I think it's an eye roll for most states in the union. I think it's an eye roll for most people in America. We do not particularly have the fondness. Fondness does not come up. It is not something that conjoils within our spirit when we talk about the federal government. I'm a socialist, and I find and I even still slightly recoil at the mention of the federal government for many reasons. Our current federal government, that is. And so I just felt like that needed. So I don't know if that's necessarily a full-on retraction, but I hear what that commenter was saying. I respect what that commenter was saying. And I thought it was a valid point to say that there aren't many states in the union that have these laws on the books. But I wanted to just also augment it by contextualizing why Texas was named.
But now, jog my memory. Did Texas have the law and then they were removing it?
No,
whereas the
no.
other ones didn't have it? Oh, okay.
No.
Because what did the governor do? I thought the governor had done something. Did he ban it or block it or something?
Yeah, they blocked it. Yes, yeah. There were bills that were trying to be raised that would address this issue, and a lot of the businesses and the governor were in opposition to those bills, and that's partly why the story took place in Texas. Now, I'm not here. That's the thing. To be fair, I don't know if the same bills have been up in Jersey. This is something we could look up. It'll be interesting to know if similar bills were blocked in this state. So that's what I'm saying. That was a fair point by the commenter. So there's no what do you call it? There's no ill will there. I think they made a very good point, and that's why I thought it was worth addressing. But I also wanted to contextualize the framing of why we were harping on Texas in that story.
Texas is asking for it.
That's not what we're doing here. We're not here to pick on states. It's not fair. It's not fair.
Fair? Don't they put bounties on doctors for trying to administer healthcare? Give me a break with fair.
Well, that's a different issue, and I think every issue has its time in the sun.
Oh, because it's not a coordinated effort by the same group. That's one way to be defeated.
Well, I just wanted to address one part of the puzzle.
Guys, these soldiers are not part of the army. We're going to worry about each charging soldier one at a time. Nobody worry about the larger strategy of this front.
I think that we could make, in fairness, you could make a distinction between business interests with regard to not wanting to pay more out of pocket with regard to employee comfort and
fringe extremist group
and fringe
agendas.
Extreme groups agenda, exactly that.
Although wouldn't an unchecked corporate agenda be something similar?
An unchecked corporate agenda could definitely bleed over into that realm if it were, but again, this is not
if it were limiting water breaks and killing people.
If they were at I see what you did there. Touche. Touche. You know what? You might have got me a little bit. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Kill anything that kills people at the end of the day. It's probably something that you could put into an extremist agenda, but it's not the same extremist agenda.
Fine. So, not the point I want to argue today, but good retraction by omission.
Yes, retraction by omission. I like that.
All right. So I got a small one. You want to go? Do you want me to go? What do you want to do?
Yeah, you go. Yeah. I mean, it's
all right. We'll go back and forth today.
Yeah.
So sticking with the climate theme, our climate series goes on because climate change is not going anywhere. The International Panel on Climate Change's sixth and latest report explains that colonialism has made climate change worse. So, the wildfires in Hawaii are concerning for several reasons. Obviously, the countless people injured, over 110 people dead, thousands of structures incinerated, and all of that history lost. These are all tragedies. The area of Maui that was wiped out was once the capital of the Hawaiian Kingdom. and we'll get into it soon, but the fact that colonialism is responsible for the fire that further erodes the link between Hawaiians and their history only adds to the tragedy that this community is currently going through and will be going through for quite some time. But what were the specific drivers of this disaster that impacted the population of 164,000 residents? Let's do a little bit of context here. First, Hawaii is not a natural fire ecosystem. Therefore, it has not evolved to rebound after fires. What also needs to be said is that climate change is partly to blame for this. Why? How? Well, 2 points. Stronger hurricanes are forming due to warming air and water temperatures. We saw this with Hurricane Dora's intense winds, and they traveled 400 miles to fan Maui's flames. And Maui was also experiencing a severe drought that will only get worse as time goes on. A drought that dried out plants and created fuel for the fire. And it's that last point that I want to dive into. Last episode, I believe, if not the one before, Antoine mentioned that invasive species of grasses had taken over the island and were to blame for this inferno. But how? Right? But how? And the answer to that, which I did not know at the time, is colonialism. So new grasses were introduced to Hawaii in the 19th century by settlers who forcibly shifted the land away from indigenous resource management practices and towards large-scale cattle ranching and plantations, like the Dole Pineapple Company. The plantations were eventually abandoned in the 1990s, allowing the non-native grass to spread, meaning the fire problem was caused by vast swaths of land left unmanaged by wealthy landowners. Now, the number of wildfires drastically rose in this post-plantation era. So it is not people guessing or blaming some history, obscure part of our past. This was in data. We knew this as soon as it started happening. Now, a 21 study in the journal Perspectives in Plant Ecology, Evolution, and Systematics similarly concludes that large-scale monocropping, something we covered in a previous episode, led to the rapid loss of and degradation of native ecosystems through increasing dominance by non-native plants, and that these plants have contributed to the frequency and strength of fires. Plants native to Hawaii, on the other hand, have been shown to be beneficial to limiting wildfires. The IPCC's report that I cited earlier says that colonized areas are more likely to face worse climate disasters and linked to studies that show direct connections between environmental damage and robbing indigenous communities of their land. Others have argued that colonialism is the direct cause of climate change, and this was kind of interesting. I think you'll probably like this. Citing a fundamental societal value that motivates both colonial action and environmental degradation. And here's a quote from the article, and you can find the source in our YouTube description. Instead of treating the earth like a precious entity that gives us life, Western colonial legacies operate within a paradigm that assumes that they can extract its natural resources as much as they want, and the earth will regenerate itself. Fact that we know is not true. Earth's ability to rebound is finite. Its resources are finite. Its space and its atmosphere are finite. So now that Maui has been forced to rebuild virtually from scratch, what will the next chapter be of Hawaii? What will the next chapter be of Maui? It's about a $5 billion recovery. How will it prioritize how it's going to rebuild? Will it build with its rich culture in mind and kind of revamp that and try and emulate it and mirror what it once was and benefit locals, maybe do it even better this time around? Or will it bend to the powers and influences of wealthy outsiders through things like tourism? I guess you could argue it may be balanced, but I find that to be unlikely. It doesn't really happen a lot anywhere else, at least not equal balance. And although tourism can be enriching, it does tend to exploit. You have 30,000 tourists flying to Hawaii each day. That economic power is $20 billion a year. That is hard to ignore. And just to get a sense of how it can be within days of the fire, before the bodies were even removed from the smoldering ruins, residents started receiving messages from developers to sell their prime Hawaiian property. so that they could develop it. So the tourism revenue also raises the cost of living and prices out a lot of native Hawaiians, forcing them to leave the state. The median price for a single family home in this area is $1 million, $1 million. And even if locals don't sell, the new building standards to withstand these new fires are likely to drive costs up, and they're not going to be able to afford it. So only time will tell exactly what Hawaii decides to do. I couldn't help but think, like after the war, after World War II, the way that some parts of, say, like a Germany rebuilt, where they kind of rebuilt what they once had or went completely modern and commercialized. That's where you get a lot of that. Sometimes you get it still in the same city, like a juxtaposition of an old, like, I don't know what, like a timber house, a timber structure, and then like you get like a modern cement building next to it.
Yeah.
But it's just like not that the fire and the war are in any way comparable, but it's the thought of when you're decimated, and you have the opportunity to rebuild, what influence what direction you take. I don't know, I just thought that was an interesting challenge in the wake of tragedy that Hawaii is going to have to make a decision for. I don't know.
I mean, it's interesting you bring up World War II. It's not, right. It's not the same, but anyone who's a history buff, we think of the end of the Second World War. You think about what happens to Germany. Half of it is taken by the West, half of it is taken by the East, right? Not similar, but that imagining that, the Germans at that point, I mean, here's the thing, at the end of the Second World War, maybe it was like, it's rightfully so. But the Hawaiians at this point, this is completely unjust, right? If you have people coming in and then taking advantage of the situation because of, the trappings of capitalism, prices are raised. God knows what what insurance will be at this point with regard to covering these properties or covering this land, right? Because insurers are going to be like, well, this is a danger now. This is a known danger with regard to fire, so the insurance premiums are going to be higher than they used to be, which is also something to consider for someone who is looking to rebuild. Even if you could afford the property price of this plot of land that you're, or to rebuild the house that you've lost. Can you afford the monthly premiums with regard to your fire coverage? These are things that are going to eat into your wallet. And when you have people who are already living paycheck to paycheck, as most Americans are, that's going to be something that might ultimately be the straw that breaks the camel's back and forces you to migrate. And like you said, Hawaii's got billions of dollars in tourism, and it's sort of like who receives those billions of dollars. How is it equally apportioned out amongst the residents of Hawaii? Obviously not. That's just not how capitalism works, right? It's going to be a top 2%, 1% of people who are going to be raking in the majority of that money. And then, when you have people coming in to develop, you've got $1 million properties. The only people who are going to be able to buy that are, again, very wealthy people coming in and displacing the locals. That's a terrible situation all around. I think that's all I have to add in terms of that. Do you have more to this portion of the story?
No, that's it. I mean, that's it. I thought it was interesting that, because you had brought up the grass before and the invasive species, and I didn't really comment too much on it because I didn't heard about that at that point. And in that particular episode, the Hawaiian fires were just one of several examples of wildfires all over the world right now. Mm-hmm. And I didn't really probe you for it. I'm curious, when you heard of that, did it go into colonialism at all, and why those invasive species, or how they even arrived on the island?
Yeah. No, I mean, you basically covered it. I mean, it's part colonialism. It actually starts back in like 1793 or so. Like it's like late 18th century, 19th century. It also has to do with immigration, and a lot of it actually has to do with the former plantations that used to be on Hawaii, namely pineapple and sugarcane. And it brings up an interesting aspect of land ownership in this new era of awareness of ecosystems and how things collectively impact the climate and the planet and all of us, where you could
buy a large piece of property, change it ecologically to be a plantation or a cattle ranch,
Right.
ditch that effort, and then just allow the contamination to spread and have no real qualms about it, because it's like, what, still within your borders? Or even if it wasn't, how are you going to get sued because your grass starts growing on the other side of the fence? I mean, there's no laws for that. So what
Exactly
that
right.
does to the ecosystem is it doesn't tolerate drought well, becomes tinder for fuel,
Right.
and then the wildfires come and just burn it right up, and it's just going to grow back and happen all over again, except this time be worse, because it'll continue to choke out the native plants, which are,
well, they're all gone.
they're drought tolerant, but once they're gone, they don't grow back fast enough. Yeah, and the other ones take over.
That's right.
And so where's the accountability for that? It's almost like this new dynamic of accountability where, well, what have you done to the ecosystem?
Yeah.
And we have a little bit of that now. You can't pollute. I mean, you're not supposed to under certain laws anyway. But this idea where I changed the ecology, I got rid of the native plants, replaced it with something else. And then I'm even maybe abandoning this property. I still own it, but I'm not maintaining it.
Right.
That's exactly I'm not maintaining it in any way that is not polluting, or that there isn't dangerous debris where if a kid goes there, he's not going to get a nail in his foot or something, right? Like,
nothing's going to happen. It's not visible.
We don't even think about it this way,
right?
Well,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's not something that's with like you using the word polluting is fun. I like it, but it requires a level of educating like our general consensus, like the general population, as to how far pollution could go. Whenever we think of polluting, again, we always go back to the Captain Planet. It's like it's like a big oil spill. It's it's some sort of leak into our waterways.
It's chemicals. It's always a chemical spill. It's always some type of chemical spill.
Right. We don't think of pollution in terms of, oh man, these ranchers left a whole bunch of invasive species that are now taking over the island. We just say that's a nuisance, right? You say that's just something that is it's overgrown weeds. It's something something to be taken back. It's like, all right, if it comes onto your property, you hire a landscaper to remove it. There are definitely there are always horticultural initiatives within our state of Jersey, within the state of New York, where people are trying to replace some of the invasive species with more native species, but it's never a sense of urgency. It's never on the scale of what it needed to have been if we're talking about Hawaii. Again, like if you look at it as, oh, this isn't just invasive, this is pollution. This is a massive amount of pollution that has been introduced to this ecosystem, and it needs a heavy-handed approach to take it back and get rid of it. There were some reports, there were documents that were filed, I believe, at the city council of this town, that while the scientists had, said that, hey, there's probably a high risk of fire for this region, but it wasn't taken up. And the reason it probably wasn't taken up is because there probably wasn't a lot of resource or money that could be allocated by this local state government, this local government of this town, to be able to take on something as massive as that. Again, that this is we have so little money in this country for infrastructure, and this is a point where infrastructure has come back to bite us in the patootie, right? I mean, that's what's basically happened here. This is a mismanagement of infrastructure to say you have derelict plantations with, and by the way, people, the grass that we're talking about, when you think about grass, you're thinking about like something that's like a foot tall, 2 feet tall. The invasive species grass in Hawaii could get anywhere. It could grow up to 10 inches in a single night of rainfall, and it gets up to like 10 feet tall. So that's what we're referring to here.
Wow.
This is 10-foot tall brush grass.
It dries out.
That dries out at the end of the season. And think about it. These are on derelict plantations, massive pineapple, massive sugarcane plantations. Most people have an idea of how big a plantation could be. You have a huge industry that has left Hawaii, and this land is just sitting there with 10-foot tall grass, dry, just waiting to be ignited. That's why the fire moves so quickly. That's why it just decimated. And it's so sad to think that people were living next to this. Again, it really is like pollution. It's like thinking of people who live in Cancer Alley in the Midwest, or the pig farming with all the feces and all the runoff of all of that stuff. You think about those people, you're always like, man, that's horrible. These people have lung cancer. They're got, it's hard to breathe with all this kind of pollutants in the air. And again, that's ignored. That's the thing. We can talk about that because that's ignored and that's like egregious. Imagine living next to a tinderbox and it doesn't affect your day to day. So no one thought about it, but it was just waiting to kill a whole bunch of people. That's so sad. That's again why infrastructure, while it's not sexy, is so vital to our society. And the fact that we spend more money on the military to go off and do whatever it is talking about protecting America's interests. And I get it, this is not a knock, by the way, on individual military families. We're talking about the military industrial complex. We're talking about the billions of dollars that gets funneled off to say, fight the war in Ukraine with us, just sending trillion dollars. We're just sending money every time, but no one said, hey, why don't we send $1 billion to Hawaii to clean up all that brush that's just littered around these people's homes? How about we just send $6 million to fix this? That's
Buy
what's
back
crazy.
the property, rewild it.
Even if it wasn't bought back, I get it. That'd be fantastic to rewild it, but just to say, in one thing, you could go after the corporation, whoever owns it. You could have gone after the owner if there is an owner. I mean, again.
But the thing is, what law are they breaking today?
Exactly. You have to completely reframe the way that we talk about pollution in order to have them break a law. You basically would have to put in that this invasive species is a mode of pollution, and you are polluting. But the idea that is ever going to come across the Congress is just like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. There's so many issues that are on the back burner of this country. They're just sitting there. The last thing I feel anyone, maybe after this fire, maybe, the sad thing about a disaster is that after the disaster is hit, it's like damage done. It's like job done. It's like, let's just send relief efforts to help the people that are affected, but no one has appetite to pass new laws to say, hey, let's look around the country. Let's look around the rest of Hawaii and say, hey, is there anything else that is close to this? Is there anywhere else in our country that might have such a danger of invasive species? Maybe this is a contributing factor to wildfires elsewhere. There's no appetite to it. Because it's like, it's done. They're like, the fire's done. The people died. The humanitarian story is unfolding. And you just shift you shift it mostly to the humanitarian stories. You shift it to the people. You shift it to the 3,000 animals that are lost in the wilderness that needs, the vets are trying to save. You shift it to these things as opposed to the hardcore core of the meat of the issue here. And it's the meat of the issue is that we neglect infrastructure like it is the plague in this country. And it is, with climate change, it is starting to bite us. It is starting to bite us hard. And that's really where we need to that's the main issue. That's what we need to be addressing. And it's just not sexy enough to address.
You're right. You're right. I mean, and we covered this on a previous episode where we covered that data is being used today to build infrastructure in your community today that is pre-climate change, that ignores climate change. So once climate change strikes, all of your money, your municipality and your state are spending to do a new road, do a new whatever. It's not going to be able to withstand whatever's coming. It's not going to last as long as it's supposed to. And, I hope not, but it could be catastrophic depending on what it is. So there needs to be a reckoning of infrastructure, period, because our infrastructure is outdated and it's crumbling under normal conditions.
Right.
But when you realize how pivotal it is going to be for us to transport ourselves, goods, operate locally, on a state level, on a federal level, just to move the movement of people, the movement of goods, just to do what a country does. It's all going to be hampered. I mean, and hampered probably is not a strong enough word. It's not going to last. And then we're going to have to spend more money. And if we don't strategically address, I think what you had brought up, the most critical areas, the biggest areas of, you could say opportunity, but really the biggest areas of failure, likely to fail. Now we're going to, if we don't have money for infrastructure now, and they're failing at a rate of just through, regular attrition. Once the catalyst of climate change starts to kick in, how do we do it? Where's the money come from then?
Yeah, it's somewhere else, probably somewhere else where it may not need necessarily need to be spent. I mean, that's, I was thinking the whole time, when you were talking, I was like, oh man, maybe I should do a military analogy to this, where I was like, well, imagine we're out there and your enemy is flying drones, and you're just like, well, good news, guys. We're on the 6th year of the tank budget, or the ground warfare gun budget. It's like we're going to buy more guns, and you're like, well, but you're being attacked from the air. But we're going to buy more guns. And look, here's our 4-year plan. We started this plan 8 years ago. And it's like, well, 8 years ago, drones didn't exist. It's time to you gotta recheck this. You can't just keep doing this. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's insanity. That's the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing, and the
guys, we bought new knives to attach to the end of our guns.
But you know what? The reason I did initially, the reason I said, it doesn't even make sense to do that, is because the military budget, they would just do both. They would keep buying the bayonets to fix to the ends of these the like A-15 or whatever. We're not gun people, but yeah, they would buy bayonets to affix the sidearms. And they would do something. They would do a new initiative to buy more drones, because that's how flexible the military budget it tends to be. Every quarter or whatever, the Congress, there's an impasse in the House, there's an impasse in the Senate with regard to passing budget, but they always pass the military budget.
You bring up a really good point, because a lot of the military spending is based on this idea of, if we maintain a strong military, no one will mess with us, type of thing, right? We're going to have the best of the best in all of these categories. And no, we don't use 99% of it, but it's there and everyone knows it. And we'll demonstrate that with war games and whatever. Yeah. What if we took a similar approach where we're like, yeah, we're going to invest in preemptive activities.
Oh, man.
So that we didn't have to worry about these natural disasters and extreme weather events. And
careful, JB, you're sounding like a socialist here. What are you trying to do? You're trying to create this safety net for people that just in case they need it. That's a waste of money.
Listen,
you have to demonstrate the need. It has to be on the backs of.
Well, that's the thing, is
you can't just spend money to spend money now.
That's the thing, though, that the data is there. With climate change, since we were kids, the data has been there, and no one knew exactly when we would start seeing the effects, but the data was there to say, we keep pumping this stuff in to the atmosphere, into the water, things are going to happen. We're going to have mass biodiversity loss. Temperatures are going to raise. Storms are going to get worse. Blah, blah, blah. All these things are going to become more frequent and intense, and we are starting to see it. We're seeing it so often that it's actually starting to normalize rather quickly. The rate is happening so fast that things are becoming normal. And I will go back to Michael E. Mann's quote, "This is the new abnormal." How many fires have we had already? Now it's just like another wildfire. That wasn't a thing a few decades ago. Not at this rate. So it's not that we're spending money, and I know you're kind of joking, but it's not even that we're spending money and what's the analogy with the wall, and does it keep the Mongolians out?
The Mongols at the gates.
Yeah, you built it and they didn't get through. So how do you know the wall even worked? How do you know it was even needed? But the thing is, we have this data. And we're seeing it play out. And now it's not a matter of, is climate change going to happen? We are in climate change. Now it's a matter of, how much worse are we going to let it get? And if you don't trust that, then you're not really paying attention, because that is the same forecast that brought us to today. All of this was predicted. It is happening now. And the same scientists are telling you that it is going to get worse. And every day that passes is a deeper hole that we are going to challenge the future to dig out of.
That's so well said. That's perfect. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Every day, every month that passes, every year that passes and we do nothing is just another, basically it's another dent in your children's car. That this beautiful car that you're trying to build your children to have them go off into the wild, the sunset with amazing lives, and I don't know, whatever it is people think that their kids are going to be doing. Because guess what, people, we're not doing anything with the climate. So I don't know what kind of, the fact that for the first time I had to have, and again, I feel bad because whenever we harp on the fires and the fact the fires are coming down from Canada and it's like our kids can't go outside because it's a air alert and all these things, and it's new to us. I get it. We're up in arms. It's new to us. Whereas it's old hat to people who live in California. It's old hat to people who live in Australia. And to that point, I feel bad. I'm like, we should have been taking this more seriously. We should not have been just sitting here talking about it like it's a news story that the people in California can't breathe and just saying, well, that sucks for California, sucks for Australia. It's just unfortunate. Maybe those people should move. Maybe they should find somewhere else to live. Guess what, people? There is nowhere else to live now. It's everywhere. It's going to be everywhere. Right. And unless you enjoy a future where you're going to be putting on World War I like style masks to go outside because the smoke is so thick, and your job is not going to sit there and hold it for you while you sit at your job's not going to hold it for you while you sit at home. You should be able to sit at home and do your job anyway. But that's not here nor there. All I'm saying is that it's not like the economy is going to stop and halt because it's unpleasant to go outside. They're going to be like, put the mask on and get into the office. That's going to be the way of it. It's like, what an unpleasant future, to contemplate. What an unpleasant future to pull into our existence. It's like, we know where it's headed. So this should be the number one issue. Like, why are we going to go into the debates? And the number one issue is probably going to be, I don't know, whatever Trump wants it to be. And it's not going to be this, because this costs money. This costs the government money, and it costs corporations money to tackle climate change. So it's definitely not going to be climate change. I'm going to call that right now. You heard it here first. I'll clip this and play this next year at election time after the first two debates to call that none of the debates addressed, and I'm talking about seriously, not a softball question by some MSNBC or Fox News host about climate change is a big issue that's been going on in this country. What do you have a plan to address it? And then the freaking candidates are going to be like, it's top of our agenda. Climate change is very important to us all. We are well. First of all, that's a normal candidate. That's not what's going to happen. I don't know what Trump's going to say. That's not how the answer.
They don't believe it. They think it's
exactly. So that's not even what's going to be answered. So if you want a more measured answer, come and tune into Retraction. I'll give you what a candidate should be saying. If you're not going to do anything about it, because regardless of what happens, neither party is going to do anything about it. And yeah, I don't know how long we're going to sit here as a people and say that's good enough. Like that, the fact that the two main parties are so beholden to corporate interests that they will not in earnest tackle climate change. I just don't understand where we go. It is the issue of our future. It is the issue of the kids' future. It's, to make Greta Thunberg out there as some sort of like maniacal meme, like she's just some crazy person, shouting about the sky is falling, like she's some Chicken Little, is insane, because we're seeing the effects. It's playing out before, our very eyes. It was one thing to ignore Katrina and say that's a 1,000-year flood. Look, it hasn't happened again. But here's the thing: it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen like in the next 6 years or so. It's gonna happen. Something like that. And the thing is,
it's happening. It's just did it hit another area that's shaped like a bowl with weak levees? No, because there's not a ton of those. But
yeah. But
point. I mean, the storms and intensity are all over. Yeah,
we're talking about storms right now. Well, what is it? Hurricane Hillary is hitting the southwest of California at the moment. So yeah, you're right. It's not as if these things aren't happening, but yeah, it's not as sensational as watching a levees break in a place that is shaped like a bowling ball or something. Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely right about that.
My favorite GIF, I think, still to date, because it's so sad it makes me laugh, is the one of the adult kicking a giant ball that's printed like the earth, and it just hits his kid in his face and knocks him clean on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen it?
No.
Oh, well, I'll have to send it to you. It's very
funny. You will. And you probably should put it on Twitter. Put it on our
I mean, it's old. Everyone,
X feed.
I'm actually shocked you've never seen it before. It's an old.
So bring it back. Bring it back. Hey, look, put it with the clip. Bring it back. Get it on. Get it on the old X. Get it on the X feed.
Yeah,
I'm helping him out, by the way. This sounds.
I can't believe you called it that.
Well, people are like, oh, what am I going to do? Or call this Xing? Whatever this is. This is Xer. We're now Xers. We use our X. It's like, yeah, well, if you use X as a verb, must suck. But you got to treat it like the X Games. It's like, get it on the X feed. I mean, it's terrible, but I'm doing the best I can. We're doing the best we can. Like the material.
Why are you even trying?
Because it's what it is. What it is. It's not going to turn around. No one's going to steal this company from this man as he barrels it into the netherverse. This is just it is what it is. Meta is Facebook, and we just have to deal with that because we've given over all our agency to a couple of deranged billionaires, and everyone seems to be fine with it as long as we can get through our day to day and do what we need to do. As long as I can, X my gifts and I don't know, talk to some other people on metaverse in the metaverse. Everyone's like, fine, whatever. Let's root for which billionaire is going to win the corporate wars. Yeah, that's not on. I'm just saying that's not on me. That's society in general. That's just what we've accepted as the truth. So, in that vein, I'm going to do the best I can with X. I'm going to make it something that we can use. I'm going to make it something that I can talk about. We're not Xing, but we're
Antoine does not speak for me in this. Antoine is speaking.
X.
No, Antoine is going to be the only person on Earth other than Twitter employee using X.
I will be. Yeah, I will because that's what he's renamed this company. He's renamed. He's taken a mild nuisance and turned it into a full blown turd. It's just like he's weaponized doo-doo, right? Like it's one thing if someone takes a dump in the punch bowl, but then if you take that punch bowl and you throw it in the pool, you've amplified that, right? Like it's like there were issues with the turn of the punch bowl, but I don't know, maybe you could drink around it. You can't, but you get what I'm saying. It's like where it is. That's what Twitter was. It's like a necessary evil. Wasn't that great? It wasn't something that everyone was in. Again, it was a punch bowl. It was small. It was anyone who happened to want to drink punch at the party. They were indulging, and they know there's a turn in there, but they're making the best of it. That their noses are crunched up. Their lips are pursed. They know it sucks, but they're going to drink the punch anyway because they're super thirsty. Okay,
I can't riff off of this analogy.
You gotta. Example. And then what he did, this little dude, this little doodoo head comes in and he grabs the punch bowl and he throws it in the pool, and we're all swimming in the pool. We're all in. I would have
went with there was a little bit of bird crap on the side. And then he came in and took a dump in the punch bowl. And he was like, guys, it's all poop, right?
It's all, you know what? That's good. See, you did it. You did it.
There you go.
You shined it up. I like that. You did it.
I sent you the GIF on your phone.
Thanks. This is good air for someone listening. I'll look at the GIF. I've never seen this. That's fantastic, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'll post it for everyone.
Post it.
Everyone has seen this one, so it's not anything groundbreaking. Anyway, that was my topic. Hearts go out to the Hawaiians, but let's do more than thoughts and prayers. Let's actually stop this from happening again, people, please.
I did actually. So I was looking to see if there was anything similar to that with animals that get out, because there's like 3,000 animals that are missing, apparently, according to estimates.
Pets?
Yeah, pets.
Oh, wow.
As a result of the fires.
That's that's sad.
It is sad. Here's the thing. It's like if most people did it, if you don't spay and neuter, which most people kind of do these days, shout out to Bob Barker. If anyone gets that rough. So it's probably mitigated, what could happen, if these animals were not neutered and they're just wildly, you've got house pets that are now out breeding, like cats, for instance. I mean, you could that basically could create an entire feral cat population. Now you've got I feel like
cats,
problem.
As long as they're not declawed, can survive. I do question other domesticated animals being able to survive outside for any period of time.
Now, apparently, here's the thing. According to some of the articles, they were saying that there is a good chance that these animals will survive this, or at least there's a good chance that the animals survive the initial fire because being small, again, the old adage, stop, drop, and roll. The reason they tell you to drop is because it's easier to breathe the closer you are to the ground.
Except when the grass is on fire, Antoine.
Yeah. So anyway, Anyway.
What about when the ground is on fire?
Jamie, don't come at me with your logic. I don't want to hear it. All right, save that stuff for the debates. I don't want to hear this. Yeah. Anyway, they're saying that there's a good. I don't know why there's a good chance that some of these animals, most of the
They
animals,
get out of the
survive.
house and they're just surrounded by oh god,
So
it's horrible. It's
It's
horrible.
horrible. It's horrible. I mean, but all I'm saying is that there's a good chance a lot of these animals survived. Apparently, they've rescued like 1,000 something animals already. There's like a huge groundswell of effort to rescue these animals. But I'm just saying that this is something we don't think about. There are so many knock-on effects. Okay, you're talking, it's like one thing we're talking about. All right, the grass, that's an issue, and then we're talking about all right, these people's homes, that's an issue, and it's like, well, what's going to happen if developers come in and buy their homes out because they can't afford to keep them, because they can't afford to pay the mortgage, because they've lost their jobs, they've lost security. There's a million things that can happen, and then on top of it, you're like, all right, well, is there now an invasive animal species problem because people have pets and there's just all these pets that are lost in the woods, and how, what's going to happen with that? How is that going to affect the ecosystem? How's that? That's all I'm saying is
they got to hunt something. They're going to eat and hunt something.
It's insane to think about how,
and people generally have, I'm going to think about this before I say it. Yeah. I think I'm pretty good in saying it. People generally have predators as pets.
Correct. Yeah, so
you're just releasing a bunch of predators,
into the
into an ecosystem that has no natural defense against them.
Correct. That's exactly right. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, we're there's so many issues when these things occur, and it's that's what I'm saying. It's just not the face value. It's there's so much underpinning. There's so much undercoat to climate change that without dedicated all hands on deck, like we said last time, what was it that we're at the boiling point, without a huge, just massive effort to say that this is the premier issue of our generation, this is the premier issue of our lifetimes, and it needs that level of attention. It needs the same attention that the Congress is giving to the war in Ukraine needs to be applied to climate change and study in terms of unearthing, because first of all, it's been studied to death, but just taking these studies seriously and acting and making action basically on the back of studies that have been done since the freaking 70s. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to take this stuff seriously and actually do something? We're just like you said, we're just going to normalize it. It's just going to get worse and worse, and you're going to be going to work in a gas mask. And you're just be like, well, I guess this is it. There's nothing we could have done. This is just the earth changes. The world just turns. It's, I think Hawaii is such an interesting point because, again, like you said, this is something that could have actually actionably been handled. We could have addressed the fact that you had a massive invasive species that dried out. That's something that could have actually been tackled. That could have been done. That's not something to put your hands up and say, oh, well, the earth does this. This is what the earth does. It's like, no. It's not what
you could have cleared it all out. It was cleared out to be a plantation. Exactly. We clear things out all the time. Exactly. You could have just cleared it out.
And there's so many things like that. That's the thing. This is not a one-off. That's what we're trying to get at here with this whole climate change series. It's not a one-off. It's not the earth just warms. There are very actionable things that can be done via the government that are just completely ignored and done away with because it would cost somebody too much money, because lives at the end of the day are cheaper than doing something. Yeah.
Apparently it seems so.
Yeah. So anyway, that's all I have to say. I think that's the last soapbox moment for this episode. Jamie, do you have anything else?
No, that's it, man.
All right, then let the people know where they can find us.
Folks, we have new clips out every week. Fridays are the full episodes. Like and subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please, please, please share with one person today.
Just one. With that, Retraction. Oh.